The sky split open like a wound, and humanity looked up just in time to see fire coming down. Not a meteor. Not a comet. Something controlled. Something angry. And whatever it was dying. For most people on Earth, the day began like any other. Cities woke under grey skies. Farmers checked their fields. Pilots followed routine flight paths. No one expected history to arrive screaming through the atmosphere at 30 times the speed of sound. High above the Pacific Ocean, global tracking systems lit up all at once. Satellites detected a massive object tearing through Earth's upper atmosphere, shedding molten metal and plasma. Seismic sensors trembled before impact even happened. Military radars across 5 continents tried to lock onto it and failed. Because the object wasn't falling randomly. It was steering. Dr. Elias Moore was drinking cold coffee in an underground research facility in Nevada when every alarm he'd ever helped design began screaming at once. Red lights flooded the room. Screens filled with data streams that made no sense. "That's not a natural entry," he whispered. The object adjusted course mid-descent. No asteroid could do that. Within minutes, emergency protocols activated worldwide. Airspace shut down. Satellites reoriented. Governments that barely spoke to each other opened encrypted channels without hesitation. Something big was happening, and everyone knew it. The object struck Earth in northern Mongolia. The impact was violent enough to flatten forests, shatter ice sheets, and register as a magnitude 8 seismic event. A crater nearly 4 kilometers wide was carved into the land. Fire rolled outward like a living thing, then vanished, leaving silence behind. When the dust settled, what remained was impossible. A ship. Broken. Burning. Massive. Its shape was wrong for human design, too smooth in some places, brutally angular in others. The metal surface shifted colors as if alive, reflecting the sun in patterns no human alloy could produce. Even shattered, it dwarfed aircraft carriers and skyscrapers alike. Within hours, the crash site was surrounded. Soldiers first. Scientists second. Fear everywhere. Colonel Hannah Voss stood at the edge of the crater, staring down at the wreckage. She had served in 3 wars and survived things that broke other people. Her hands still shook. "This isn't ours," she said quietly. No one argued. Inside the ruined ship, alarms still pulsed faintly. Alien symbols glowed and faded along fractured corridors. The interior smelled sharp and metallic, like burned lightning. Bodies, tall, thin, and unmistakably not human, lay scattered among broken consoles. They were dead. All of them. And whoever they were, they had crossed the stars, and lost. News of the crash never reached the public. Not yet. Within 48 hours, representatives from every major nation arrived under extreme secrecy. Arguments flared. Accusations flew. Old rivalries threatened to ignite. But the ship changed everything. This was bigger than borders. By unanimous decision, humanity created the United Earth Recovery Command, a coalition with one purpose: study the ship, learn its secrets, and prepare for what might come next. Because no one believed this was an accident. Dr. Amina Rahman arrived 3 days later. She was small, soft-spoken, and brilliant in a way that unsettled people. A systems engineer and theoretical physicist, she had spent her life working on ideas most scientists dismissed as impossible. Faster-than-light mathematics, exotic energy states, hypothetical propulsion theories. Now those theories lay broken in a crater. She stood silently for a long time, staring at the wreck. "They didn't mean to land," she said at last. Colonel Voss glanced at her. "How do you know?" "They tried to save it," Amina replied. "See the damage pattern? Controlled failure. Emergency descent. They fought gravity all the way down." "And lost," Voss said. "Yes," Amina agreed softly. "But not before leaving us a gift." Inside the ship, exploration teams moved cautiously. Every step was recorded. Every artifact catalogued. The technology was beyond human understanding. Power conduits that bent light, materials that healed microscopic fractures on their own, interfaces that responded to proximity rather than touch. But the most important discovery came from deep within the ship's core. Engineer Thomas Iborra found it by accident. He was mapping a collapsed section when his scanner reacted to a faint energy pulse. Behind a sealed bulkhead, buried under debris, sat a chamber untouched by fire. In its center floated a fractured crystalline structure, suspended by flickering energy fields. It pulsed like a heartbeat. "What is that?" Thomas asked over comms. Amina arrived minutes later. The moment she saw it, her breath caught. "That," she said, voice shaking, "is their mind. The ship's core intelligence. Damaged. Fragmented. But alive." Over the next weeks, humanity learned the truth. The ship belonged to an alien power calling itself the Sovereign Continuum. A vast empire that ruled through conquest and efficiency. They catalogued species, ranked civilizations, and erased anything deemed unworthy. Earth had been classified centuries ago. Low intelligence. No spaceflight. No threat potential. Ignored. The ship had been abandoned deliberately. Its crew evacuated after battle damage, choosing not to destroy it. Why bother? The planet's inhabitants were considered incapable of understanding the technology. By the time humans evolved enough to matter, the knowledge would be obsolete. Humanity had been dismissed. That realization burned deeper than fear ever could. "They thought we were nothing," Thomas said bitterly. Amina stared at the fractured core, her reflection warped in its surface. Then they made the greatest mistake in their history. Rebuilding the ship was never part of the original plan. Studying it was. Salvaging it was. But rebuilding? That idea began as a whisper. A dangerous thought no one wanted to say out loud. The technology was centuries ahead. The ship was shattered beyond repair. Humanity barely understood its own machines. And yet, humans were good at one thing. Improvisation. Where the aliens used perfection, humans used adaptation. Where alien systems demanded exact components, humans substituted, rewired, reshaped. Nuclear reactors replaced alien energy cores. Human code translated alien logic. Steel reinforced fractures alien materials no longer could. It wasn't elegant. It was stubborn. Years passed. The world outside slowly learned the truth about alien life. Panic gave way to wonder. Wonder gave way to unity. Conflicts cooled. Resources shifted. Humanity began thinking not as nations, but as a species. Deep beneath Mongolia, the ship changed. It no longer belonged to its creators. It belonged to Earth. Amina stood alone one night inside the partially restored command chamber, lights dim, systems humming unevenly around her. The ship felt awake, different, changed. "So," she whispered, resting a hand against the wall, "you thought we'd never understand you." The ship answered with a low, resonant vibration. Humanity had found fire in the wreckage of alien arrogance. And somewhere among the stars, the Sovereign Continuum continued its conquests, unaware that the insects they dismissed were learning how to fly. The first time the ship responded to a human command, no one cheered. No one spoke. They just stared at the screens in silent disbelief. Because the impossible had just blinked back at them. The alien vessel had no buttons, no switches, no physical controls of any kind. Everything had been designed for minds that thought faster, processed differently, and communicated through layered neural signals. The Sovereign Continuum never expected anyone else to touch their machines. That arrogance almost saved them. Almost. Dr. Amina Rahman stood in the center of the command chamber, surrounded by holographic readouts translated into crude human approximations. Symbols pulsed slowly, their meanings still uncertain. Around her, engineers from 12 nations waited, holding their breath. "Try again," Colonel Hannah Voss said. Amina nodded and closed her eyes. The interface responded to intent, not touch. Human minds weren't meant for it, but over years of trial and error, they had found a workaround. Neural feedback helmets. Machine learning translators. Emotional pattern mapping. Not understanding the alien system. Teaching it to understand them. Amina focused on a single thought. Power flow status. The ship shuddered. Lights flickered. Then, across the central display, a status bar filled halfway. Corresponding, Thomas whispered. That shouldn't be possible. Yet it was. Humanity had forced a dialogue. That moment changed everything. From that day forward, progress accelerated. Human engineers stopped trying to replicate alien perfection and started doing what they did best, breaking rules. They bypassed safeguards, rewrote protocols, and replaced entire subsystems with hybrid designs that would have horrified the ship's original creators. Where alien systems demanded precision, humans introduced tolerance. Where aliens optimized for efficiency, humans optimized for survival. The ship became something new. Something dangerous. The biggest breakthrough came from the weapons deck. The original armaments were beyond repair. Alien energy conduits had fused during atmospheric entry, and the weapons firing matrices were destroyed. By all logic, the ship should have remained unarmed. Human logic disagreed. They stripped the alien weapons down to their fundamental principles. Energy compression. Directional field shaping. Release vectors. Then they rebuilt them using human physics, particle accelerators, magnetic confinement, and nuclear-derived power feeds. The result was crude. The result was terrifying. During the first test, the weapon fired a concentrated beam of accelerated matter that punched through a mountain range 300 kilometers away. The rock didn't explode. It ceased to exist. Silence followed the test. Then fear. "What have we done?" one engineer whispered. Amina didn't look away from the data. "We've learned how to make gods bleed." The ship needed a name. Calling it the alien vessel no longer fit. It wasn't theirs anymore. It was human-built, human-driven, human-flawed, and human-angry. They named it Resolve. Years turned into decades. Human children grew up knowing they were not alone. Schools taught stellar physics alongside history. Nations pooled resources not out of kindness, but necessity. Humanity had seen the size of the universe, and it was no longer comforting. Resolve was moved off-world in pieces, reassembled in orbit beyond Earth's detection range. Officially, it didn't exist. Unofficially, it became the heart of humanity's first true space force. Captain Jonah Reeves was chosen to command it. He wasn't the best pilot. He wasn't the smartest officer. But he had something rare. He understood fear, and refused to let it rule him. During Resolve's first full activation test, Reeves sat alone in the command seat, hands resting lightly on controls that didn't need touching. "Power stable," engineering reported. "Navigation responding," said tactical. "Core synchronization at 87%, Amina added. Reeves exhaled slowly. "Then let's wake her up." Resolve's engines ignited. Not with fire, but with silence. Space bent. Stars shifted. And in a blink, the ship moved. Not forward. Away. Resolve completed a short-range jump, humanity's first faster-than-light movement, then reappeared exactly where predicted. The room erupted. Humanity had crossed the final threshold. But celebration didn't last long. The alien data recovered from the core intelligence painted a grim picture. The sovereign continuum was expanding. Entire star systems were falling. Species were enslaved or erased based on usefulness. And one entry, buried deep in old logs, chilled Amina to her core. A scheduled resource reclamation. Location: Sol system. Estimated arrival: 18 standard cycles. "They're coming back," Thomas said quietly. "They were always going to," Amina replied. Resolve alone wasn't enough. Humanity didn't have time to build elegant fleets or perfect systems. They needed numbers. They needed adaptability. They needed ships that could be built fast, repaired faster, and fight in ways the aliens wouldn't expect. Human shipyards bloomed across the solar system, hidden in asteroid shadows, beneath lunar regolith, inside hollowed moons. Designs evolved rapidly, each iteration improving on the last. No two ships were exactly alike. The sovereign continuum valued uniformity. Humans embraced chaos. Resolve became the prototype, the teacher. Its data fed every new hull. Its scars guided better armor. Its failures shaped smarter tactics. And through it all, Amina watched. She had dedicated her life to understanding the enemy, but now she feared something else. What humanity was becoming. Not monsters, but warriors. One night, standing in Resolve's observation deck, Captain Reeves joined her. "You regret it?" he asked. She considered the question carefully. "No," she said. "But I understand it." "Understand what?" "That once you teach a species how to fight gods," she said softly, "you don't get to decide how far they go." The first alien scout arrived sooner than expected. A small, automated probe slipped into the outer solar system, scanning, analyzing, judging. It transmitted data back toward continuum space. Resolve intercepted it. The probe never sent its report. Humanity didn't cheer when it was destroyed. They watched in silence. Because now the galaxy knew something was wrong. And soon, the Empire that had thrown away a broken ship like trash would come looking for answers. They would find something they never predicted. Not a primitive species. Not insects. But a civilization that had learned how to survive being underestimated. The alien fleet arrived without warning. No declaration. No threats. Just gravity bending, stars twisting, and silence breaking into something enormous. Resolve detected them first. Long-range sensors screamed as space folded near the edge of the solar system. One jump became 5. 5 became dozens. Massive shapes slid out of nothingness, their hulls dark and smooth, their energy signatures cold and precise. The sovereign continuum had come to reclaim its mistake. Captain Jonah Reeves stood on the bridge of Resolve, staring at the tactical display. His face was calm, but his jaw was tight. "How many?" he asked. "Initial count, 40 warships," Tactical replied. "More signatures still forming." 40. Humanity had 12 combat-ready vessels. No one panicked. They had known this day would come. "Signal all fleets," Reeves said. "Defensive formation. No one fires unless I give the order." Across human space, ships moved. Not in neat lines or perfect symmetry, but in layered, overlapping patterns. Each ship had different capabilities, different weaknesses, different crews trained to adapt on the fly. It was chaos by design. A transmission cut through the bridge, clear, cold, and utterly alien. "This system is under sovereign continuum authority," the voice said. "Identify yourselves and power down." Amina Rahman stood beside Reeves, her eyes fixed on the display. "They sound bored," she said. "They think this is cleanup," Reeves replied. He leaned forward. "This is Captain Jonah Reeves of the United Earth Fleet," he said calmly. "This system is protected. You are trespassing." There was a pause. Then laughter. A sound like metal scraping over glass. "Correction," the alien voice replied. "You are insects occupying a resource node. Stand aside." Reeves exhaled. "So be it." The alien fleet advanced. Their weapons charged with flawless synchronization. Energy fields flared across their hulls, layered and precise. This was how the continuum fought: overwhelming force, perfect coordination, no wasted motion. Human ships scattered. To alien sensors, it looked like panic. It wasn't. The first human strike came from nowhere. A small frigate, barely a third the size of the alien destroyers, cut its engines and drifted dark. Alien targeting systems ignored it. Low threat, low priority. Then it detonated a gravity mine built from stolen alien math and human insanity. Space folded inward. One alien ship vanished. Not exploded. Gone. The continuum hesitated. Just for a fraction of a second. Resolve fired. Human weapons did not match alien elegance. They were loud, inefficient, and brutal. Kinetic slugs wrapped in energy fields slammed into alien shields designed to absorb plasma and light. The shields held, until they didn't. Cracks formed. Human ships exploited them instantly. The battle dissolved into confusion. Alien fleets relied on hierarchy and command chains. When their lead ships fell, their coordination faltered. Humans exploited that weakness ruthlessly. Independent captains made real-time decisions. Some retreated. Some flanked. Some sacrificed themselves without orders. It was messy. It was terrifying. It worked. On the Continuum flagship, Commander Threx watched the chaos unfold. His mandibles clicked in agitation. "These tactics are illogical," he snapped. "Enemy vessels do not conform to standard threat models," his tactical officer replied. "They behave emotionally." Threx felt something cold settle in his core. "They learned," he said quietly. Resolve took heavy damage. Alien beams sliced through armor. Human shielding failed and reformed unevenly. Fires broke out. Crew members died. No one retreated. Amina watched the battle feed in horror and pride. "We were never meant to win cleanly," she whispered. "Only to survive." The turning point came when the aliens made their fatal assumption. They targeted Resolve as the command ship. They were right. But they misunderstood why. Alien vessels converged, focusing fire with devastating precision. Resolve's shields screamed under the assault. "Shields at 30%, engineering shouted. Reeves didn't flinch. "All power to forward array," he said. Amina turned toward him. "That will overload the core." "I know." Resolve surged forward, engines screaming in protest. Alien ships closed in, confident. This was the killing blow. Then Resolve fired its human-built core weapon. It wasn't a beam. It wasn't a projectile. It was a calculated collapse of spacetime shaped by alien physics and human recklessness. The space between Resolve and the alien flagship folded inward. The flagship tore itself apart, trying to exist in a place that no longer made sense. The Continuum fleet froze. For the first time in centuries, sovereign warships hesitated. Reeves didn't waste the moment. "All ships," he ordered. "Push." Humanity did not chase victory. They inflicted memory. When the battle ended, 15 alien ships were destroyed. 7 more were crippled. The rest fled, warping away in disorganized retreats. Human losses were heavy. But Earth still stood. Silence filled the bridge. Then, slowly, people began to breathe again. Amina sank into a chair, exhausted. "They'll be back," she said. "Yes," Reeves agreed. "But not like this." Deep in Continuum space, emergency councils convened. Data streamed in from shattered fleets and damaged probes. The reports made no sense. A Class 7 species had rebuilt a sovereign warship. They had weaponized discarded technology. They had fought like predators. The official Continuum record was amended. Earth classification, revised. Threat level, unknown. Recommended action, containment or extermination. For the first time, humanity's name entered alien war doctrine. And across the galaxy, enslaved species began to whisper. If the insects could fight the gods, what else was possible? The galaxy noticed when the humans crossed the line. Not because they fired first, but because they didn't wait to be fired upon. For 3 months after the first battle, space was quiet. Too quiet. The sovereign Continuum did not rush blindly back into the Sol system. That alone frightened humanity more than the attack itself. Empires that paused were empires that planned. And the Continuum had ruled the stars for thousands of years by never repeating the same mistake twice. Captain Jonah Reeves studied the tactical projections in silence. Every model ended the same way. Earth lost. Not today. Not tomorrow. But eventually. "They'll come with numbers," he said. "Overwhelming numbers." "They always do," Colonel Hannah Voss replied over secure link from Earth. "That's how they erase resistance." Dr. Amina Rahman stood at the far end of the room, hands clasped behind her back. She had barely slept since the battle. Not from fear, but from realization. "We cannot win a defensive war," she said quietly. The room stilled. Reeves turned toward her. "Explain." They control territory. They control supply lines. They control the narrative of power, Amina said. If we wait, we give them time to adapt to us. Time to harden their shields against our weapons. Time to study our tactics. So what do you propose? Voss asked. Amina met their eyes. We take the fight to them. Silence followed. That idea would have been unthinkable a year ago. Humanity had only just learned to leave its own system. The Continuum controlled dozens of star systems. Their fleets outnumbered humanity's ships 100 to 1. But humans had never won by matching strength. They won by changing the rules. The captured alien data told a critical story. The Continuum relied on central control hubs, massive command nodes that coordinated fleets across light years. Destroy one, and entire regions fell into confusion. Protocols delayed response. Subordinates waited for orders that never came. It was efficient. And fragile. Resolve was modified again. Not to be stronger, but to be quieter. Human engineers stripped non-essential systems, reshaped its signature, and taught it how to hide between sensor sweeps. Alien stealth relied on precision masking. Human stealth relied on unpredictability. Resolve slipped into Continuum space unnoticed. The target was a logistics world. Not a fortress. Not a fleet base. A hub that processed resources, data, and slave labor. Thousands of ships passed through it every cycle. Amina watched the planet spin on the main display. They never defend what they don't respect, she said. The strike was surgical. Resolve emerged from folded space for exactly 4 minutes. It unleashed kinetic strikes on data spires, power relays, and orbital coordination arrays. No planetary bombardment. No civilian extermination. Just collapse. Then it vanished. The Continuum response came too late. Within days, slave uprisings erupted across the region. Supply chains broke. Fleets stalled waiting for orders that never arrived. The Empire labeled the incident a malfunction. Then Resolve struck again. Another system. Another hub. Always different. Always unexpected. Humanity didn't attack strength. They attacked certainty. Inside the Continuum High Council, panic began to spread. Reports contradicted doctrine. A single enemy vessel appeared and disappeared at will, dismantling infrastructure without attempting occupation. They are not conquering, one counselor hissed. They are teaching. Teaching fear. Teaching doubt. Teaching the galaxy that the Continuum could bleed. On Earth, the truth was finally revealed. Humanity learned not only that aliens existed, but that humans were fighting them. There was no panic. There was resolve. Factories converted overnight. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers. Scientists worked alongside soldiers. Artists painted ships on city walls. Children grew up knowing the stars were no longer distant lights, but future battlegrounds. Humanity stopped asking if they would survive. They asked how far they could go. Resolve returned home damaged but victorious. Reeves stood on the bridge, staring at the scarred hull through the viewport. We can't keep this up forever, he said. Amina nodded. We don't need to. She pulled up a final data file recovered during the raids. A Continuum war doctrine. Their greatest weakness. They don't believe in total war, she said. They believe in control. In order. In fear. And? Reeves asked. And humans believe in something else. She looked at him. We believe in fighting back. The Continuum finally responded with force. A fleet unlike any before entered human space, 3 times larger than the first. New weapons. Adaptive shields. Command ships hardened against disruption. This was extermination doctrine. Earth prepared for the end. Resolve led the human fleet to intercept. The battle that followed would later be called the breaking of silence. Human ships did not form lines. They formed storms. They swarmed Continuum vessels from every vector, using ships as weapons, turning debris into traps, overloading space itself with conflicting gravitational effects. The Continuum fought perfectly. And still lost ships. Because perfection had no answer for madness guided by purpose. Resolve pierced the heart of the enemy formation, drawing fire, absorbing damage that should have destroyed it. Its hull burned. Systems failed. Crew members died at their stations. Reeves stayed seated. "Hold," he said again and again. At the center of the alien fleet, Resolve unleashed its final weapon, not destruction, but revelation. A broadcast. Every channel. Every frequency. Alien slave species saw it. Human faces. Human voices. Humans standing against gods, and not kneeling. The message was simple. You are not alone. Across the galaxy, something shifted. The Continuum won the battle tactically. They lost something far more important. Control. Resolve limped home barely alive. Earth survived, but the cost was enormous. In the quiet aftermath, Amina stood beside Reeves in the medical bay, watching wounded crew being treated. "We didn't win," he said softly. "No," she agreed. "But neither did they." Far away, in Continuum space, rebellions ignited like stars. The empire that had ruled through silence had taught the universe one lesson too many. And humanity, once dismissed as insects, had become the voice that refused to be quiet. Symbols were heavier than weapons. They did not run out of power. They did not need reloading. And once created, they could never be taken back. Humanity did not ask to become a symbol. It happened the moment the broadcast spread beyond Continuum borders. The moment enslaved worlds saw humans stand blooded but unbroken. The moment the idea took root that the sovereign Continuum could be challenged, and survive being challenged. That idea was dangerous. For everyone. The first contact came from the Kepri Collective, a species of crystalline beings once engineers before the Continuum stripped them of autonomy. Their message arrived encoded in obsolete Continuum trade channels, buried beneath layers of fear. "We have watched," the message said. "We have waited. Are you real?" Amina listened to the translation twice before answering. "Yes," she said simply. "We are." More messages followed. Worlds long silent. Species reduced to labor units. Cultures that had forgotten what freedom felt like. They did not ask humanity to save them. They asked if hope was allowed again. Resolve could not protect them all. Humanity knew that. But saying nothing would be worse. The United Earth Council faced its hardest decision yet. Aid the rebels and risk annihilation, or abandon them and become what the Continuum believed them to be. Captain Jonah Reeves addressed the council remotely, his uniform still stained from repairs and blood. "If we turn away now," he said, "we survive a little longer. Maybe. But we lose what made us dangerous." "And what is that?" one counselor asked. Reeves didn't hesitate. "We fight for more than ourselves." The vote passed by a single margin. Humanity would help. Not with fleets. With knowledge. Human engineers smuggled design principles through encoded signals. How to break Continuum command loops. How to sabotage energy grids using simple tools. How to weaponize inefficiency. Rebellions spread faster than the Continuum could suppress them. And the Empire adapted. This time, it did not respond with fleets. It responded with precision. Continuum hunter-killers began appearing near rebel systems. Specialized ships designed not for battle, but for punishment. They targeted populations, infrastructure, culture. Entire worlds burned. The message was clear. Hope had a cost. Earth felt it. For the first time, Continuum forces bypassed Resolve and struck human assets directly. Hidden shipyards vanished. Supply convoys were ambushed. Civilian stations were destroyed without warning. Humanity learned what it meant to be hunted. Resolve was no longer enough. Its hull carried scars too deep to hide. Its crew was exhausted. Its systems strained beyond design. Every jump risked catastrophic failure. Amina stood alone in the engine bay one night, listening to the uneven hum of the core. "We pushed you too far," she whispered. The ship answered, not with alarms, but with stability. Resolve had adapted. Like its creators. The next battle came without warning. A Continuum strike group emerged near Mars, targeting a civilian habitat that housed nearly 1 million people. Evacuation was impossible. Resolve jumped directly into the firing line. Reeves didn't ask for permission. He knew the cost. Alien fire tore through Resolve's weakened shields. Hull breaches spread. Atmosphere vented into space. Crew members sealed compartments with their own bodies to buy seconds. Seconds mattered. Human escort ships arrived late, but not too late. The battle ended with the Continuum retreating. Mars survived. Resolve barely did. In the aftermath, humanity mourned openly for the first time. Names were read across the world. Faces shown. Stories told. No one hid the cost anymore. Instead of fear, something else grew. Resolve. Children wrote letters to the crew. Artists painted broken ships still standing. Engineers worked harder. Soldiers volunteered knowing the odds. Humanity was no longer pretending this was temporary. They were at war. Amina met Reeves in the quiet of the observation deck, stars drifting slowly beyond the glass. "They are trying to break us by making us choose," she said. "Between what?" Reeves asked. "Between being human," she replied, "and surviving." Reeves considered that. "I choose human," he said. The Continuum High Council convened in secrecy. Their simulations showed unacceptable outcomes. Not defeat, but erosion. The longer humanity existed, the more systems destabilized. The more species resisted. The problem was not human firepower. It was human influence. A resolution was passed. Earth would be erased. Not conquered. Not studied. Erased. A superweapon was authorized, ancient, rarely used, and irreversible. A stellar destabilizer capable of collapsing Sol's star into controlled catastrophe. No planet. No system. No symbol. Resolve intercepted fragments of the plan too late. Amina read the data in silence, then closed her eyes. "They're going to kill our son," she said. The room froze. Reeves felt something cold settle in his chest. "When?" he asked. "Soon," she replied. "Weeks. Maybe less." Humanity faced extinction, not through battle, but inevitability. Resolve could not stop the weapon alone. The fleet was too small. Time was too short. And yet, humans had never survived by playing fair. Amina pulled up an ancient Continuum schematic buried deep in the archives. A flaw. A theoretical instability dismissed because no Continuum mind would ever consider using it. Human minds would. "They believe no one would ever sacrifice a ship to disrupt the field," she said. Reeves looked at her. "Would it work?" "Yes," she said. "Once." "And the ship?" he asked quietly. She didn't answer. Reeves turned toward the stars. Resolve had been built from discarded arrogance and human stubbornness. It had carried them from helplessness to defiance. Now it faced its final purpose. "Prepare the crew," Reeves said. "Everyone except essential personnel evacuates." Amina stepped closer. "I can't ask this of you." "You didn't," he replied. "Humanity did." Resolve set course for the heart of Continuum space. Not to win, but to make sure there would still be a tomorrow worth fighting for. Resolve jumped alone. No escort. No backup. No promise of return. The stars stretched into impossible lines as Resolve tore through folded space toward the heart of the sovereign Continuum. Every system screamed under the strain. The ship had been rebuilt, repaired, and reforged a dozen times, but this jump pushed it beyond anything it was ever meant to survive. Captain Jonah Reeves remained seated on the bridge, hands steady, eyes forward. Around him, the skeleton crew worked in quiet focus. No speeches. No tears. They had already said their goodbyes. Dr. Amina Rahman stood near the core access chamber, tablet clutched in her hands. The plan scrolled endlessly across the screen, calculations stacked on assumptions stacked on hope. Human hope. The Continuum superweapon waited ahead. The stellar severance array was older than most of the Empire's living commanders. A ring of massive constructs orbiting a captured star, designed to destabilize fusion reactions and force stellar collapse. It was not elegant. It was final. Alien doctrine viewed it as a deterrent, not a weapon. The cost was too high. Entire systems would be sterilized by radiation. Resources lost forever. But humanity had become inconvenient. Resolve exited folded space inside the array's defensive perimeter. Alarms exploded across the bridge. "We're inside their kill zone," Tactical warned. Reeves nodded. "They didn't expect us to come this way." Alien sentry ships reacted instantly, weapons charging in flawless synchronization. Resolve's stealth was gone. Its shields flared weakly, barely holding. Amina's voice came over comms. 30 seconds until alignment, she said. "That's all we need." Resolve surged forward, engines burning like wounded beasts. Alien fire tore chunks from its hull. Compartments vented into space. One of the crew was lost instantly, pulled into the void without a sound. No one looked back. The array began charging. The captured star pulsed violently, its light shifting toward dangerous spectra. Earth-Sun would follow once the array recalibrated. Humanity had minutes left. "Captain," engineering said, voice shaking. "We won't survive another hit like that." Reeves stared straight ahead. "We don't need to." Resolve reached the array's inner ring. Amina watched the data flood in, her heart pounding. "There," she said. "The resonance node. If we collapse that field." "The array destabilizes," Reeves finished. "Chain reaction." "And the ship?" she asked quietly. Reeves smiled faintly. Human ships were always meant to break. Alien warships closed in, firing relentlessly. Resolve's shields failed completely. Hull breaches multiplied. Fires raged unchecked. Reeves stood. "All hands," he said calmly. "Initiate final protocol." Throughout the ship, escape pods launched, small, fragile sparks racing away from a dying star of metal. Not all made it. But enough did. Amina remained. Reeves turned toward her. "You should be gone." "So should you," she replied. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Thank you," he said, "for proving we were never insects." Amina swallowed hard. "For reminding the universe," she answered. Resolve slammed into the resonance node at full burn. The ship didn't explode. It unraveled. Human-alien hybrid systems overloaded, feeding chaos into precision. Energy fields collapsed into each other. Space twisted violently around the impact point. The stellar severance array screamed, an impossible sound carried through quantum feedback across half the galaxy. Then it failed. The captured star stabilized, its violent pulse fading. The array shattered, massive structures torn apart by forces they were never designed to contain. Resolve was gone. Not destroyed. Ended. The Continuum fleet froze in disbelief. For the first time, they witnessed something their doctrine could not explain. A species willing to burn its greatest weapon to save a future it might never see. Across the galaxy, sensors recorded the failure. Slave worlds felt the shift immediately. Command signals went dark. Authority fractured. Control loosened. Earth-Sun burned on. Humanity lived. Weeks later, the survivors returned home. The loss of resolve hit like a wound that would never fully heal. Memorials rose across Earth, Mars, Luna. Names etched into stone and steel. Stories told again and again. Humanity mourned. Then they rebuilt. Because that was what they did. Amina stood before a new shipyard in orbit above Earth. The designs on her tablet were different now. Less desperate. More confident. Humanity had learned something priceless. They didn't need one legendary ship. They needed each other. Far away, the sovereign continuum fractured under its own rigidity. Rebellions spread faster than suppression. Fleets hesitated. Commanders questioned orders for the first time in history. The Empire had survived. But it would never be the same. Amina looked up at the stars. Resolve was gone. But its echo was everywhere. And the galaxy had learned the most dangerous truth of all. Humans did not need permission to exist. They only needed a reason. The war did not end with victory. It ended with a question. The sovereign continuum still existed. Its fleets were battered. Its command structure fractured. Its authority questioned across hundreds of systems. But it had not fallen, not yet. Empires that old did not collapse quickly. They cracked, slowly, dangerously, taking worlds with them as they died. Humanity stood at the center of that crack. For the first time in recorded galactic history, a species outside the continuum's design had changed the future, not by conquering territory, but by refusing to disappear. Earth did not celebrate. There were no parades when the sun rose another day. No fireworks when the news confirmed the stellar severance array was gone. Instead, there was silence. The kind that follows survival when survival came at a terrible cost. Resolve was gone. And with it, the illusion that heroes were invincible. Dr. Amina Rahman stood before the United Earth Council one final time. She looked older than her years now. Not tired, tempered. "We are no longer hidden," she said. "And we are no longer underestimated." Screens behind her displayed intercepted continuum transmissions. Fractured orders. Conflicting commands. Entire sectors asking questions the Empire had never needed to answer before. What happens when the slaves stop obeying? What happens when fear fails? "We have become a variable," Amina continued. "And empires do not tolerate variables." A council member leaned forward. "Then we finish them." The room tensed. Amina shook her head. "No," she said. "That is what they would do. And if we become them, then resolve died for nothing." Humanity faced a choice the continuum never had. Power without restraint. Or strength with purpose. The first human-led summit took place not on Earth, but in neutral space. Representatives arrived from species humanity had only known as data points, beings of light, crystal, sound, and flesh. Many bore scars left by the continuum. Some had lost entire histories. They did not kneel. They stood. Amina addressed them not as a ruler, not as a conqueror, but as a survivor. "We are not here to replace an empire," she said. "We are here to make sure no one ever builds one like it again." The proposal was simple. No forced unity. No hierarchy of species. No classification of worth. Only defense. Only cooperation. Only the promise that if any power tried to erase another from existence, they would not face it alone. Some doubted. Some feared humanity's rise. But many remembered the broadcast. The broken ship that had stood against gods. The star that had not died because humans chose sacrifice over domination. Hope, once seen, is difficult to unsee. The continuum struck one last time. A rogue fleet, loyal to old doctrine, attacked a refugee system that had declared independence. Humanity responded. But not alone. Human ships arrived beside vessels built by liberated worlds, using shared knowledge, shared tactics, shared resolve. The battle was brief. Decisive. When the last continuum commander surrendered, he asked a single question through the translator. "Why didn't you finish us when you could?" The human response was broadcast across every known channel. "Because survival taught us something conquest never taught you." "What?" the commander demanded. "That power is not proven by who you destroy," the human voice replied, "but by who you refuse to abandon." The sovereign continuum did not fall in fire. It faded. Systems withdrew. Fleets stood down. Worlds reclaimed their names. The empire that once ruled through silence became a warning taught in history across 1,000 species. And humanity returned home. They rebuilt cities. They planted trees. They told stories of resolve not as a weapon, but as a reminder. Children grew up knowing the stars were dangerous, but not hopeless. That intelligence was not measured by technology alone, but by what one chose to do with it. Amina stood beneath Earth's sky years later, watching unfamiliar constellations made by human and alien ships moving together. She smiled softly. Humans had been called insects, then enemies, then symbols. In the end, they chose to be something rarer. Guardians of the fragile future. Not because they were the strongest, but because when the universe tried to erase them, they rebuilt. They resisted. They remembered who they were. And the stars remembered them too.